I used to think I understood what safety meant. It wasn't about locks or alarms. It was Sunday breakfast with jazz music in the kitchen. My mom in her cotton robe, my dad making his famous omelets while humming off-key. It was the sound of clinking dishes and warm laughter in our little two-story house tucked in a quiet neighborhood in Seattle. For a long time, that was the rhythm of my life. Predictably. Peaceful. Untouchable. I'm Logan. I'm 25. I moved out 4 years ago to Capitol Hill to be closer to work, and, honestly, to finally breathe outside the bubble of perfection my parents curated. My dad, Gregory, was a tech executive, the kind of guy who gave TEDx talks and had a strict morning routine involving cold plunges and green juice. My mom, Julia, was an elementary school teacher who collected wind chimes and believed in second chances. They were the couple everyone in the neighborhood looked up to, and I was proud of that. Growing up, I went through the usual teenage friction with my dad. We clashed over expectations, curfews, his obsession with optimization, and my tendency to drift into poetry and philosophy, but things got better after I left home. We grabbed coffee on Sundays, texted memes back and forth, debated politics over IPAs. It felt earned, which is why I didn't see it coming. On the evening of June 11th, I was sitting in my apartment, scrolling through tenant inquiries. I had a spare room listed online, and a dozen random messages had already come in. Then I got a DM on Instagram. Hi, Logan. It read, "Do you have a moment?" At first glance, the message felt like a bot. The name was Foreign Katya V. The profile had a few filtered selfies, and the message was written in broken English. Still, I was used to scammers trying to slip through the cracks. So I responded politely, "Hi. Are you inquiring about the room?" She ignored the question. "Your sister is very beautiful." She wrote next. My blood stopped moving for a second. I typed slowly. "Excuse me, do you know my sister?" She replied, "Yes. Your father talks about her and you all the time." There was a pause in my brain, like the buffering circle of death. My father. What? I stared at the screen, frozen, trying to compute what this could possibly mean. And then, with the next message, she dropped the bomb. "Your dad. He doesn't talk about me." And attached 3 photos, a triptych. Photo 1, her on a beach, smiling, with my father beside her in a casual polo, laughing, sun-kissed. Photo 2, a selfie with their faces close together, his arms slung loosely around her. Photo 3, her lips on his cheek, him mid-smile. He blinked. I rubbed my eyes. I stared again. It was him. No doubt. No angle or filter could blur that truth. My father, who kissed my mom goodbye every morning and sent me articles about self-discipline and legacy, was there entwined in a life I knew nothing about. And then, as if orchestrated by a malicious script, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from my dad. "Hey, bud. How's work going? Got time to chat this week?" Timing. Always timing. I didn't reply. My chest buzzed with confusion, shame, adrenaline. My brain split in two, one part whispering. It could still be a misunderstanding. Another part, preparing for war. So I did what no son ever expects to do. I went hunting. I sat back in my chair, fingers hovering above the keyboard, heart thudding like a slow drumbeat in my ears. The photos kept flashing before my eyes, dad laughing. Relaxed. Free. Not the dad I knew from morning commutes or phone calls asking if I was drinking enough water. This man looked younger, unburdened. Adored. I needed more. I scrolled through Katya's Instagram. It was public. Of course. That kind of profile always is. Travel shots in Santorini. Capuchinos in Prague. A few filtered selfies with poetic captions. He makes the sun rise faster beneath a blurry skyline. And then I saw it. A reel from 2 months ago. It was a short video of waves crashing at La Concha Beach in San Sebastian, Spain. The camera pans and for a split second, there he was. Gregory. In linen. his signature aviators. Standing beside her, holding a hotel keycard. I suddenly felt sick. Still, I wasn't ready to believe the worst. Not yet. So I replied, testing her. Oh, that must be awkward for you, since Dad usually tells his girlfriends about each other. Katya's response was nearly immediate. What? There are others who, how long? She was unraveling. I lied. Quickly. Well, I met a woman named Elena when I visited him in Amsterdam last winter. He said you two had an arrangement, but I didn't know if you were still together. Another text storm followed. Angry emojis. Paragraphs in half English. Half anxious tears. She said she felt sick. Betrayed. That he promised her she was the one. That he had talked about divorcing my mother to be with her. And then came the words that changed everything. Can we call, please? I want to hear what you know. And just like that, the game changed. I agreed, but on one condition she would start a three-way call with him. And I would stay silent. Muted. I needed to know how deep this rabbit hole went. If this was real, if my father was actually cheating on my mom, not just emotionally gone, but physically invested in a parallel life, I wasn't going to get that answer from some woman he met overseas. I was going to get it from him. Katya didn't even hesitate. She sent me a thumbs up emoji and said, "Give me 5 minutes. I'll call." I stared at my phone like it was a grenade. I should have backed out. I should have called my mom. Or screamed. Or thrown my phone into the sound. But I didn't. Because something in me, some mixture of spite and sorrow, needed him to say it. Out loud. 5 minutes later. The phone rang. I picked up. The screen displayed two participants, Katya and Dad. She had already muted me. Her voice came through, cracking with emotion. Gregory. Please, tell me. Tell me. I'm the only one. He sighed. That same sigh he gave me once when I crashed the car in high school. Tired. Defensive. Katya, I don't know what Logan told you. But he's confused. He's emotional. He just found out about the divorce. He's upset. Divorce. Katya sniffled. But why would he say there's another woman? There was silence. Then my father's voice dropped. Because he's angry. Katya. Because I haven't told him everything yet. Because he doesn't know how hard this has been. You told me he knew. She whispered. You said everything was finished with your wife. Then he did it. The thing that broke me. I said we were separated emotionally. The papers take time. Julia and I, we're not even speaking. But I didn't expect him to hear about you like this. He's just hurt. He thinks I'm abandoning him. He was lying to both of us. Seamlessly. Smoothly. Like he'd done it before. I felt my thumb hover over the unmute button. And then, without another thought, I pressed it. Funny. I said. Because you didn't seem too worried about my feelings when you were letting her think she was the only one. There was silence. Then he muttered. Low and stunned. Oh, Christ. I hung up. The silence after that call was the loudest thing I had ever heard. I stared at the screen for what felt like a century. No one called back. No one texted. Not Dad. Not Katya. Not even my own breath dared to move for a few seconds. The last word he said, "Oh Christ," echoed in my head, like the toll of a cathedral bell right before the collapse. I stood up from my desk, pacing, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My father, Gregory James Halbrook, the man who coached my Little League team in 6th grade, the man who gave lectures on ethics and AI at tech conferences, the man who used to whisper to my mom every time she burned the roast, "It still tastes like home." He lied. And not just a misstep. This was premeditated. Orchestrated. Polished. I wanted to scream. But instead, I called the one person who could ground me, my mom. It rang once. Twice. She picked up on the third. Logan, sweetheart. Mom. I said. My voice trembling. Are you and Dad getting a divorce? There was silence. Then a shaky breath on the other end. Who told you? I sat down slowly. Like the truth might knock me flat. Katya. I whispered. His girlfriend. I think. I don't even know anymore. I could hear the weight in her chest as she exhaled. I was going to tell you, we were. He promised we'd do it together. But we were waiting for your sister's exams to finish. For the timing to be less cruel. Less cruel, I asked. Voice rising. Do you know, I had to find out from some woman who thought he was her future. Do you know she tried to pit me into protecting her from his other affairs? My mom was quiet. Then she said, softly, I just found out about Katya 3 days ago. That stopped me cold. What? He told me last week that he thought he needed to explore happiness. I thought that meant therapy. Or long walks. I didn't think he meant her. But then I saw her name in a notification on his iPad and I asked. He didn't deny it. I rubbed my forehead. So, you've known about the affair for only 3 days. She hesitated. Yes. But the marriage, the loss of it, that happened months ago. Logan. Quietly. Gradually, he stopped coming to bed. He started working late. At first I thought it was stress. I let it slide. Then I found hotel receipts. European bookings on his joint account. I confronted him, and he told me we should separate peacefully. That was 2 months ago. And the papers I asked, no lawyers. Just conversations. Agreements. He didn't want to make it messy. I scoffed. He already did. She sounded like she was going to cry again. But kept it together. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I'm sorry she dragged you into it. I wasn't supposed to find out at all. Was I? No? She said softly. Not like this. After we hung up, I sat alone in my apartment for what must have been 2 hours. I didn't touch my phone. I didn't check Instagram. I didn't even blink at the messages pouring in from Katya, asking me what I had told him, why he wasn't responding, whether I had spoken to my mom. I just wrote, at midnight. I opened my email. Subject, I need time. Body. Dad. I know everything. You don't need to spin it. Don't need to soften it. I heard you with Katya. I watched you lie to her. Lie to me. And pretend it was all somehow part of a plan we were too stupid to understand. I don't care that you and Mom are getting a divorce. That's between you and her. But I do care that you let a stranger contact me and my little sister like we were pawns in some psychodrama you created. I do care that your first instinct was to console your girlfriend instead of your son. I do care that you put Mom's safety at risk emotionally, sexually, legally by cheating while still married. I don't know what kind of man you are now. I don't know if I want to. So, until I figure that out, don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up. I'm not your sounding board. I'm your son. And you lost the right to explain yourself when you chose to whisper lies into a phone instead of telling me the truth. Logan. I hit send. And then I went to bed. But I didn't sleep. I woke up the next morning feeling like someone had punched me in the ribs. The weight of what had happened hadn't faded overnight. It had hardened. Solidified. Like grief. But angrier. There were no dreams. Not a prieve. Just a steady hum in the back of my skull that whispered, your father lied. Your father chose someone else. Your father is a stranger now. I checked my phone. 10 missed calls. 3 voicemails. All from Dad. None of which I listened to. There was also a single text from Katya. C'est très tolle. M. I didn't know he was married. Please believe me. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and began writing again this time. Not to Dad. Not to Katya. But to myself. I started a journal entry titled, What I Know for Certain. I listed facts, cold, unemotional, verifiable truths. Katya contacted me on June 11th via Instagram. She sent 3 photos clearly showing physical intimacy with my father. The relationship had lasted over 3 months, according to her own words. My father confirmed over a call that he was seeing her while still legally married. My mother only found out about Katya 3 days prior to this incident. My father never reached out to me directly until he learned I had been contacted. Katya attempted to contact my 17-year-old sister 24 hours before she reached out to me. That last one, that detail changed everything. Because at first, I felt guilt. Guilt that I had stepped into something personal between two adults. Guilt that I had torn apart a relationship that, twisted as it was, may have meant something to them. Guilt that I had manipulated someone, even if I thought they were manipulating me. But then I checked my sister's phone. She had forwarded me the messages Katya sent her. Messages asking if she was home, if she knew about Dad's secret, if she was old enough to understand, and a photo of Katya and Dad at a vineyard. My hands shook as I read them, because while I was playing cat and mouse on a three-way call, this woman, this stranger, was trying to infiltrate my sister's world. My little sister, who still wore braces and thought Taylor Swift was too edgy. My guilt gone. Now I was furious. I told my mom. Her face went pale. She texted my sister immediately, warning her to block Katya on every platform. Then she blocked Katya herself. Then we sat there in the kitchen of my childhood home, the kettle whistling between us, and we said nothing for a long time. Until my mom whispered, "He didn't just hurt me this time. He endangered you both." And she was right. This wasn't about infidelity anymore. It was about safety. Boundaries. Decency. Things that used to be so natural in our family, they didn't even have to be spoken out loud. But now, everything needed to be said. Documented. Traced. So I made another list. This time, what needs to happen? Get Dad to stop contacting us permanently. If necessary, protect my sister. Set up privacy alerts. Two-factor authentication. Everything. Speak to a therapist. I didn't even care about the wait list anymore. I'd wait the 3 months if I had to. Warn extended family. Because if Katya was bold enough to contact us, who else would she try? That last item stuck with me. So I called my aunt, my dad's younger sister. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, sweetheart," she said. Cheerful. "How's my favorite nephew?" "Aunt Carol." I said, "I need to tell you something. And it's not easy." I told her everything. The messages, the affair, the call, the lies, the attempted contact with my sister. All of it. She went quiet. Completely. I could hear her breathing. And the distant clink of a coffee cup being set down. And then, finally, she said, "Logan, I'm so sorry." He always hid things too well, even when we were kids. By the end of that day, the message had spread. Quietly, respectfully, not in whispers of gossip, but in steady waves of solidarity. No one turned against my mother. No one tried to both sides it. They saw what it was, a betrayal. And they stood by the people who didn't deserve it. Me? My sister? My mom? That night, I received one last email from my dad. The subject line simply read, "Please talk to me. I miss my son." I didn't open it. I just archived it. And I slept for the first time in 2 days. The next morning brought rain. Not a dramatic, cinematic downpour, but a gray, Seattle drizzle, the kind that soaks everything slowly, quietly, like grief. I stood by the window of my apartment, watching water trail down the glass like veins, and I realized something. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. My father may have been silenced. For now, but silence wasn't the same as accountability. It wasn't the same as understanding, and it definitely wasn't justice. I didn't want revenge, not in the dramatic movie sense. I didn't want him ruined. I didn't want him in handcuffs or bankrupt or sobbing on the front lawn. But I did want clarity. And I did want control back. So I started collecting things. Not to use as weapons, but as evidence. As protection. As truth. I dug through old photos. Emails. Joint credit card statements. I remembered my dad once gave me access to the cloud folder for our shared phone plan. It had backups of old receipts, travel bookings, even device location pings. There it was. April 3rd, he booked a hotel in Madrid under the alias Greg Hall. May 16th, another booking in Lisbon. This time with a guest listed as K. Folchenkova. May 22nd, Apple Pay used at a luxury jewelry store in Porto. And yet, on those dates, He had told my mom he was in Boston at a tech summit. I didn't need to speculate anymore. The truth was neatly filed. Dated. Time-stamped. Cold. And then I found something else. An email thread. From his work account. It was a forwarded itinerary from a corporate-sponsored retreat in southern Spain. The company's name was stamped in the footer of the email. The photos Katya had sent me were from that same location, meaning he brought his mistress to a company retreat. On the company's dime, likely in direct violation of corporate ethics policy. Now that changed things. Again, I didn't want to burn him, but I knew his company, knew their reputation, knew their board had a zero-tolerance policy for personal misconduct on international trips, especially when company resources were involved. It was all in the code of conduct. I pulled it up from their public HR portal. Just to be sure. Employees are expected to refrain from engaging in personal romantic relationships or hosting non-affiliated guests during company-funded travel unless explicitly disclosed. Violation may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Check. 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 I wasn't planning to go nuclear. I really wasn't. But something about knowing I could, knowing that I wasn't powerless in all of this, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. And I hadn't even used the worst part yet. Katya had sent videos, clips of them walking hand in hand through the halls of the resort. A toast during dinner. A brief shot of them entering the same hotel room. No words. No explicit scenes. Just implications. Quiet, dangerous. I copied everything into a folder on my desktop, Gregory, H, Integrity, encrypted it, stored it in 3 different drives. Then I sat back and stared at the folder for a long time. And I made a decision. I wasn't going to send it. Not yet. Instead, I forwarded the itinerary and one single blurry photo of him and Katya on the resort balcony to a private inbox at the company's HR department. Using an anonymous Proton Mail account. No accusations. No story. Just a subject line. Potential policy breach Valencia retreat. May 22nd. Then I closed the laptop. I wasn't interested in public fallout, but I was interested in letting the walls close in around him. Quietly. Silently. Just like the drizzle outside. Let him feel it. Let him sit with it. Let him wonder who else knew. Because this time, I wasn't coming for him with fire. I was coming with consequences. A few days later, my phone buzzed again. This time, the caller ID was unfamiliar. 872. Then 7 more digits. I hesitated before swiping to answer. Hello, I said. My voice hoarse. A calm female voice replied. Hi. Is this Mr. Halbrook? This is Dana Evans from Human Resources at Innotech Global. My heart skipped. Innotech Global was the company my father worked for. I sat up straighter, fingers gripping the edge of the armrest. We received an anonymous report regarding possible policy violations during your recent Valencia retreat. She continued. We need to discuss certain details to clarify your travel records and guest arrangements. I closed my eyes and breathed in. I did not identify myself. I let her assume I was my father. I could almost hear his trademark sigh before every difficult conversation. Well, of course, she said. Our records show you attended with your spouse or an approved guest. Could you confirm who accompanied you on May 22nd? I heard her typing in the background. I pictured her frowning at his itinerary, seeing Katya's name spelled V-U-L-C-A-G-I-N-E-K-O-V-A. There was a pause. Then thank you. We will follow up via secure email with next steps. Please stand by. And just like that, I hung up. My quiet revenge was in motion. Over the next 24 hours, the fallout began. I received a text from my mom. Logan, have you heard from Dad? He says HR is asking for immediate clarification and that he may need to take a leave of absence. I replied, I'm sorry you have to learn that this way. My inbox filled with missed calls, Dad's cell, Dad's work line, Dad's home phone. One voicemail read, Log. Please call me. I need you. This is a misunderstanding. I archived it without listening. That evening, I logged into my secondary email and saw 2 responses from Innotech. The first was a formal acknowledgement. We have received your information and will investigate according to company policy. The second was addressed to my father's corporate address. Blind copied. Dear Mr. Halbrook, we regret to inform you that, pending investigation, you are placed on administrative leave with immediate effect. Please arrange to return any company assets. Human Resources will provide details on your benefits and next steps. Regards, Dana Evans. I stared at the screen. I felt neither triumph nor guilt. Instead, he felt resolved. I had not destroyed my father's career with a public scandal. I had merely shown a company that the man they trusted with billions of dollars in technology leadership had violated their own ethical guidelines. My phone buzzed again, this time a group text from my Aunt Carol, my mom, and my sister. They had learned what I did. Their messages were supportive. You did the right thing. He needed accountability. We love you. I closed the laptop and stepped outside. The drizzle had stopped. The sky was clearing. For the first time since all of this began, I felt a flicker of calm. But the story was far from over. That night, Dad left a voicemail on my mom's phone. It was raw, urgent, full of remorse. I never meant for any of this to happen. I made mistakes. I want my family back. My mom played it for me. We listened together, tears pooling in our eyes. My sister sat quietly, clutching her phone. Then my mom turned to me and said, "He's reaching out to the only person left who still cares." I nodded. That was the power of quiet revenge, not the noise of ruin, but the hush of consequences. In the coming days, I prepared for what I would say if Dad ever insisted on a conversation. I wrote drafts how he broke my trust, how he risked my sister's safety, how he used company resources for personal gain. I assembled my own case file, with quotes, dates, and evidence. But as I assembled my arguments, I realized something important. I didn't want to crucify him. I wanted him to understand what his actions meant, to feel the emptiness he created, to see that loyalty and integrity are fragile, and once broken, they may never fully heal. So I set one final condition. When he finally reached out to me directly, I would only meet with him if he agreed to attend therapy with me. Couples therapy for father and son. A professional mediator. No secrets. No more lies buried or whispered. Because quiet revenge isn't just about retribution. It's about forcing truth into the light, about demanding respect and accountability, and about choosing who you allow back into your life. At the end of that week, my phone lit up with a text from Dad. "Logan, I understand. If you will allow it, I will start therapy. For us both?" I stared at those words. I typed back slowly. "Meet me Monday at 6 p.m. 15. Broad Street. I'll be there." And I pressed send. I had set the terms. The rest was up to him. I arrived at the small counseling office on Broad Street at exactly 6:30 p.m. 10 minutes after our agreed time. The waiting room was quiet, tasteful earth tones. A single ficus in the corner. Soft instrumental music playing at just the right volume. I sat on the edge of the black leather sofa, palms flat against my thighs, breathing slowly. Across from me, the door opened and my father stepped out, looking older than his 53 years. His shoulders were hunched, his tie undone, and in his hand, he clutched a thin manila folder, the same stoic professionalism he always carried. Now tinged with regret, he nodded once, as though acknowledging both the gravity and awkwardness of this moment. "Logan," he said quietly, voice rough, "thank you for meeting me." I nodded back, not trusting my voice yet. Between us sat the therapist, Dr. Moreno, who offered a kind, reassuring smile. "Welcome, Mr. Halbrook and Logan. Thank you both for coming. I know this isn't easy." The session began with introductions. Then Dr. Moreno asked us each to describe what we hope to achieve. My father spoke first. "I want my son back," he said, eyes shiny. "I want to earn his trust again. I know I've made awful choices. I've hurt Julia. And I've hurt you. His voice shook. He closed his eyes a moment, then opened them and looked at me. I want to be honest about who I am now and who I want to be. When it was my turn, I exhaled slowly. I tried to focus on my words rather than the tight knot in my chest. I want clarity. I said, I want to understand why you did it. Why you risked everything for Katya. And I want accountability proof that you won't ever do it again. We spent the next hour circling around that. My father admitted he fell in love with the idea of something new. Exotic travel, secret texts, adrenaline of forbidden romance, anything to feel alive again. He confessed he underestimated the damage. The emotional cost? To our family. He apologized. Again and again. But each apology felt rawer and more sincere than the last. Then Dr. Moreno asked a pivotal question, Mr. Halbrook. What changes have you made? So far. To show your son you've learned from this? My father paused, then sighed. He opened the manila folder and slid out a page. It was his official resignation letter from Innotech Global's leadership team. He drafted it last night. I filed this, he said, voice trembling. I realized I couldn't lead a company if I couldn't lead my own life. I'm stepping down. I stared at him. He continued, I've also arranged for joint counseling sessions with Mom. And most importantly, I've blocked all contact with Katya. Every number. Every account. Tears pricked my eyes. I remembered how he had comforted Katya instead of me. Now he had taken those steps on his own. Not because I forced him, but because he recognized his wrongdoing and chose to make it right. Dr. Moreno nodded. That's a powerful demonstration of commitment to change. He turned to me. How does that make you feel? Logan. I swallowed. It means you're serious. It means you're willing to sacrifice your career to save our family. It shows respect for Mom. For me? And for yourself? My father reached across the space between us and touched my forearm. It was tentative. Uncertain, like neither of us was sure if that boundary still existed. But I didn't pull away. I let my hand rest there. In that moment, I felt a shift. Not forgiveness too soon for that, but a glimmer of hope. A sense that the worst had happened. But maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild Dot. As we walked out of the office together, the night air was crisp. Seattle's neon lights reflected on wet pavement. My father slipped an arm around my shoulders, gentle. Careful. Thank you. Son, he said softly. For giving me a chance? I nodded. Just don't waste it. He squeezed my shoulder. We stood there in silence for a beat. Two people bound by blood and betrayal, choosing to move forward side by side. And that felt like the best revenge of all. By the time Monday morning rolled around, the contours of our new reality had begun to settle in. My father's resignation was confirmed in an internal memo circulated quietly at Innotech Global. His office had already been emptied by early afternoon. Meanwhile, at home, my mother and sister and I moved through our days with a delicate balance of normalcy and awareness. School drop-offs, team practice pickups, grocery runs, all under the shadow of what had happened, yet guided by a shared resolve to rebuild. That evening, I met Dad at our old family dining table, the one with the polished oak surface and the lazy Susan that had always held his famous omelet spreads. He arrived with 2 bags of groceries from Pike Place Market fresh produce, artisan bread, and a bouquet of daisies that looked out of place in our otherwise minimalist kitchen. He set the bags down and looked at me. I thought pasta and salad would be easy, he said with a small smile. I'm still figuring out how to cook again. I nodded, sliding my chair closer. I'll help. We unpacked together, moving in a rhythm both familiar and new. No awkwardness. No forced small talk. Just the grind of chopping vegetables, tearing lettuce, simmering sauce. It felt good to share a mundane task without the tension of unspoken accusations. After dinner, we cleared the table and sat on the couch. The therapist had given us a list of homework assignments, journaling prompts, communication exercices, empathy building, but tonight, Dad had something else in mind. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "For you?" he said, handing it over. I opened it. Inside was a printed copy of the company policy I'd sent, highlighted with his annotations. Next to it was a typed confession, his own statement of events. Timeline included. No excuses. He had dated the confession and signed it. "I'm going to include this with my final statement to the board," he said quietly. "I want them to know exactly why I broke their trust, and why I hope they can trust me again someday. In a different role." I studied his handwriting. Each sentence carried a weight of accountability I hadn't seen before. "This is honest," I said. "Thank you." He exhaled. "I owe you that much." We sat in silence for a moment, the glow of the lamp casting soft shadows around us. Then he asked, almost under his breath, "How are you?" "Really?" He hesitated. For the first time in weeks, I let the silence stretch until it felt safe to answer. "I'm hopeful, but still grieving," I admitted. "Grieving what we had and what we lost." He nodded, eyes glistening. "Me too." I realized that quiet revenge had done more than strip away his power. It had forced him to confront the wreckage he caused and to take concrete steps toward repair. But revenge alone is not enough. It must be paired with the possibility of something better. Over the next few days, we continued therapy together, and separately, my mother joined us for a session where we practiced active listening, speaking without interruption, validating emotions, acknowledging mistakes. My sister, ever the peacemaker at 17, wrote a letter to Dad expressing both anger and love. He read it aloud in the therapist's office, tears welling in his eyes as he promised never to betray that trust again. At home, our routines slowly regained a calm pulse. Weekend hikes in Discovery Park, Sunday brunch at our favorite cafe, group texts sharing memes about Dad's awkward cooking attempts. We laughed again. We argued occasionally over chores. We learned to navigate each other's boundaries without fear. One evening, I found myself sitting alone on our front porch, watching the sunset over the Puget Sound. My phone buzzed a text from Dad. "Thank you for today. I feel like I'm finally learning how to be a son again." I typed back, "You're doing better than you realize." I put the phone away and took a deep breath. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but it no longer defined me. It no longer held power over our family's future. We were forging a new path, one built on honesty, accountability, and quiet strength. And as the last light faded, I felt something I hadn't in months, a sense of peace. Spring gave way to summer in Seattle, lavender blooms drifting on the breeze like whispered secrets. By now, my father's administrative leave had become permanent. His office at Innotech cleared of personal effects and rekeyed for a successor. The company's HR investigation concluded with his resignation letter in hand, effective immediately. He walked away from a decade of leadership, stock options, and prestige. Because he chose to honor the terms we set together, life at home settled into a new cadence. My mother resumed her teaching schedule with renewed dedication. My sister prepared for college applications, and I returned to my marketing role, renewed by the victory of accountability. Yet, I sensed one final stumbling block: forgiveness, both for him and for myself. One evening, I found Dad on our front porch, fiddling with a small, broken, battered ukulele. He had always loved music but never learned an instrument. I sat beside him in the creeping twilight. "I thought I'd try something new," he said, strumming a tentative chord that wafted into the air like a fragile hope. My mother taught me the basics when I was a kid. I watched as he found another chord, then another. The melody wobbled, imperfect but earnest. "I'm sorry," he said softly, setting the ukulele aside. "For everything. For the lies, the betrayal, the way I left you wondering if you mattered. I know saying sorry isn't enough." I nodded. "We agreed on honesty and accountability. You've delivered that and more." He looked down at his hands. "I want to show all of us that I can rebuild trust, that I can be the father you deserve." I took a deep breath. The summer air felt warm against my skin. I believe you're trying, I said at last. But believe me too, rebuilding takes time. I can't just erase what happened. He met my gaze. I know. And I'm not asking for instant forgiveness. I'm asking for the chance to prove myself. I thought of our therapy sessions, the raw honesty, the tears, the slow acceptance. Every apology, every documented action had been a step forward. Okay, I said quietly, let's keep going. He smiled a genuine, unguarded smile and picked up the ukulele again. This time, his chords rang cleaner, more confident. He began to play a simple melody, one I recognized from my childhood. Here Comes the Sun. His voice was shaky at first, then stronger. M2. Here comes the sun. Do, 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 do. Here comes the sun. And I say, it's all right. I closed my eyes and let the nostalgia wash over me. The song spoke of renewal, of warmth after the darkest storm. I realized that our family had endured the fiercest tempest of betrayal and deceit, and we had survived. We were scarred but unbroken. When the song ended, I opened my eyes. My father's expression was hopeful. Thank you for listening. I nodded. Thank you for playing. He reached out and ruffled my hair, an old habit. Gentle and familiar. I leaned into the gesture. We sat in silence as the last light faded. The ukulele resting between us. In that quiet, I felt the final chord of our revenge, not the collapse of a life, but the restoration of a relationship built on truth. And that, I thought, was the greatest victory of all.